الله الرحمن الرحيم وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد صدق الله العظيم.
جزاكم الله خير. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. And Fir'aun, the owner of the stakes, those who increase corruption in the cities, الذين طغوا في البلاد, those who transgressed in the cities, فأكثروا فيها الفساد, وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد. And Fir'aun, the owner of the stakes, those who transgressed in the cities, فأكثروا فيها الفساد, and increased therein corruption. فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب, so your Lord unloosed, He poured upon them sawt azab, whip, scourge of punishment. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad, indeed your Lord is certainly ever watchful. और फिरौन जो मेखो वाला था, الذين طغوا في البلاد, इन सारे लोगों ने शहरों में सरकशी की, फ़अक्सरू फ़ीहा अल-फ़साद, बस ज़्यादा कर दिया इन्होंने उनमें फ़साद. फ़सब्ब अलैहिम रब्बुका सौत अज़ाब, बस आपके रब ने उन पर अज़ाब का कोहरा बरसाया. इन्न रब्बका लबिल मिरसाद, यकीनन आपका रब ज़रूर थाक में या घात में है. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned three of the strongest nations of the world in this surah. And that is a reminder for all of us and for the world. These three nations that Allah mentioned, the people of Ad, the people of Samud, and the people of Fir'aun. Allah sent them His messengers, Hud alayhi salam, Salih alayhi salam, and Musa alayhi salam. These people, the people of Ad, who lived in Yemen, in Hadramaut city. And they were the people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, He says in these ayat, لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. Like of them were never created in the earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never created people like them. Such strong people, tall. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Hud alayhi salam to them, His messenger, inviting them to Allah and prohibiting them from committing shirk. But these people, when they disobeyed His messenger and they continued committing shirk, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah sent punishment upon them. And that severe punishment was a storm that continued for 7 nights and 8 days. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, after that, كَأَنَّهُمْ أَعْجَازُ نَخْلٍ خَاوِيَةٍ. They were as if they were hollow trunks of palm trees. And the people of Samud, who lived in the country of Saudi Arabia, in between Tabuk and Madinatul Munawwara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them all, the richest people of the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Salih alayhi salam to them. And they were the same people committing shirk. This is the 3rd generation after Nuh alayhi salam. Ad and his qawm, they were second after Nuh alayhi salam. And first after Nuh alayhi salam. And the Salih and his qawm, Samud, they were the 2nd generation that came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them a lot. But when they disobeyed Allah, Allah punished them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent upon them a shout, a thunderbolt, earthquake, and all by sudden they were laying down on the ground dead. So these people, Allah punished them when they disobeyed. Fir'aun, who claimed to be Ilah, God, he enslaved Bani Israel. He ruled over the people of Egypt for a long time and enslaved them. And he committed crimes against them. And and he was the one, Fir'aun, wa Fir'aun zil awtad, he was the only person that he asked his people, you are not allowed to worship any other thing. Idols, our stars, our sun, our moon, nothing. You will be only worshiping me. The people, the previous nation, Nuh alayhi salam and Ad, they used to worship idols. And the people after that, they worshipped many, many different things. But Fir'aun was someone, he asked the people that you will worship me only. Because he said, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. I am Rabb, the highest one. So you have to worship me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He destroyed Fir'aun and his people. Why? Allah sent him Musa alayhi salam, his Nabi, inviting him to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when Fir'aun, when he increased his transgression against Allah and his messenger Musa alayhi salam, Allah drowned him and his people in the ocean. Quran Kareem says, وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُم مِّنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. We saved you, Allah addressing Bani Israel, we saved you from Fir'aun and from the people, the army of Fir'aun. They were dishonoring you, your wives. They were killing your children, committing crimes against you. وَأَغْرَقْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ, and we drowned them all in the oceans. Quran Kareem says, وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, and Fir'aun, the owner of the pegs, the owner of the nails. This, by mentioning the owner of the awtad is the plural of watad. It means peg, stake, nail. He was someone, when he would punish people, even his own wife, Asiya, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, he punished her by tying her up with the ground in one narration, or by the wall, and he hammered nails in her feet and hands. So this was the way that he used to execute people, to punish people by hammering nails in their feet and hands. And he used to leave the people in a scorching heat on the ground, hammering them to the ground. This was Fir'aun, that how he transgressed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ. They were those people who transgressed the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the cities. And فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ. Once they transgressed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَأَكْثَرُوا, then they increased فِيهَا, therein, al-fasad, corruption. They increased their mischief and their rebellion against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once they did it, فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ سَوْطَ عَذَابٍ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He poured upon them, He unloosed upon them, سَوْطَ عَذَابٍ, scourge of punishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He opened upon them scourge, whip of punishment. So all the three nations, they were the strongest people in the world. But when they transgressed against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they never protected themselves. They were not able to save themselves against the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reminder in these ayat for all of us and for the world, that no matter how strong you are, how rich you are, how many people you have, but you will not save yourself against the punishment of Allah when it comes. فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ سَوْطَ عَذَابٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He poured upon them the scourge of punishment. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed these people, the people of Aad and the people of Samud and the people of Fir'aun. And Fir'aun, that Allah made them lesson for the world. فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He addressed Fir'aun, that Fir'aun, Allah, He saved his body. فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً, so that you could be lesson, ibra, for the people to come. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is reminding us, and He is reminding these people who are committing oppression against the weak people, against the people of Iman. Allah is watching them. That's the next ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Indeed, your Lord, He is ever watchful. He is watching. He's watching these criminals people. He is watching what is going on. He is watching what's happening to the believers. He is watching how these people, they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How these people, they disobey the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is reminding to all of those people and reminding to us as well. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. If you are someone transgressed against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are far away from Allah, you should come back. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is watching you. He is waiting for you. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Mirsad this is from marswada. Marswada is ambush, where you are secretly, you sitting there and hiding yourself, waiting for someone to come and attack. That place, that is called mirsad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, I am waiting for you in mirsad. In marsada, in ambush, I'm waiting for you. So that means that when is that time? The time that the death comes to us and we will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will see the reality. It's not far from us. It is very close. Quran Kareem says, اقترب للناس حسابهم. Iqtaraba means very close to you. The time that you will see the reality and you will see Allah and you will find the outcome, the result of your deeds, your actions, that time is very close to you. It's not far. اقترب للناس حسابهم وهم في غفلة. They are in negligence. معرضون, turning away. So Quran Kareem says Allah is ever watching you. So those are the disbelievers, those are the criminals, they are the believers, but if they are away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they are committing sins after sins, Allah is reminding us, Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Indeed, your Lord, He is ever watchful. He is watching you, and when you go to Allah, He will ask you. So these are the three nations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in these ayat, and how Allah didn't mention how Allah destroyed them, how Allah punished them. What we see in the other surahs, chapters, ayat of Quran Kareem, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He destroyed them. The people of Ad, Allah sent a storm upon them. And the people of Samud, Allah sent a shout and earthquake upon them. And the people of Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He drowned them in the ocean. So these three people, how Allah punished them, a reminder for all of us. وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, and Fir'aun, ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, the owner of the pigs. And one thing I forgot, Fir'aun was, every king, ruler of Egypt was called Fir'aun at that time. His own name was, some of the Mufassirun in the history, they say his name was Walid ibn Mus'ab. His own name was Walid ibn Mus'ab. But Fir'aun, in that nation, Fir'aun, someone who was highly respected, they considered him, the people considered him chosen by God. So Fir'aun was someone highly respected person. So this Fir'aun who was the king, and this was someone who on the top of that, who said that I am the highest king, I am the highest, na'uz billah, Rabb, Lord. وَفِرْعَوْنَ, and Fir'aun, ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, the owner of the pigs. الَّذِينَ, all these people, طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ, transgressed in the cities. فَأَكْثَرُوا, so they increased فِيهَا, therein, الْفَسَادِ, corruption. فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ, so your Lord poured upon them سَوْطَ عَذَابِ, scourge of punishment. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ, indeed your Lord, لَبِالْمِرْصَادِ, certainly ever watchful. وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ, and Fir'aun, the owner of the stakes. الَّذِينَ طَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ, all these people transgressed in the cities. فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ, so they increased therein corruption. فَصَبَّ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّكَ, so your Lord unloosed upon them سَوْطُ عَذَابِ, scourge of punishment. Inna rabbaka, indeed your Lord, labil mirsad, certainly ever watchful. Wa Fir'auna, our Fir'aun, zil autad mekhwala. الذين, ये सारे वो लोग थे, तग़ौ फिल बिलाद, जिन्होंने शहरों में सरकशी की, फ़अक्सरू, फिर ज़्यादा कर दिया, फ़ीहा, उसमें, अल-फ़साद, फ़साद को, फ़सब्ब अलैहिम, पस बरसाया उन पर रब्बुका, आपके रब ने, सौत अज़ाब, अज़ाब का कोड़ा. इन्ना रब्बका, बेशक आपका रब, लबिल मिरसाद, ज़रूर इनके गात में है. जज़ाकुमुल्लाह खैर.
Jazakallah khair. Rules of Tajweed. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wafir, Ra sukun, light, because Fa before that has Kasra. Wafir. Auna, Ain from the depth of throat. Auna, Dhil. Dha with the tongue between the teeth. Dha, Dhil. Wafir'auna, Dhil. Awtad. Dal, when you stop on that, Qalqala. Awtad. Bounce on it. Alladhina, again Dal with the tongue between the teeth. Alladhina Taghaw, Ta and Ghain, both heavy. Taghaw fil bilad. Lam light, Dal qalqala. Fil bilad. Fa'aktharu, Tha again like Dal with the tongue between the teeth. Fa'aktharu, and Ra Dhamma heavy. Fa'aktharu fihal fasad. Again Dal qalqala. فصب, صاد heavy, ba light. فصب عليهم ربك, را fatah heavy and kaf light. ربك سوط, ta always heavy. سوط, صوت عذاب. Again ba also qalqala. All of these ayat and with qalqala bounce on the last letter. عذاب. In noon shadda, you make gunna, you make extra stress on it. In rabbaka, again ra heavy, calf light. Rabbaka labil mir. Mir, ra sukun, heavy, light because meme before that has kasra. Oh, okay. MashaAllah. That's something new I learned. So, Brother Tayyab mentioned that this is an exception case where Ra, even though it has, meme has kasra before that, but because it has swad, which is a heavy letter after that, so Ra will be heavy because of the letter following it. Mero, Mero, swad. Jazakallah. Swad is a heavy letter, so that's heavy and then dal light. Mero, dal qalqala. Mero swad. Okay, you can repeat after me. وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد. I'll repeat this in more breakdown. الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد. جزاك الله خير. في بك جزاك الله خير. جزاك الله خير. جزاك الله خير. فصب स्वाद थोड़ा भारी अदा करें, heavy. फصब, फा हल्का है, फिर स्वाद भारी है, फिर बा हल्का. फصब. हाँ माशाअल्लाह. जज़ाक. इन्नस, हाँ दाल कल का में स्वाद. जज़ाकल्लाह.
और फिरौन के साथ क्या हुआ जिसके पास मेखें थी और कील थी.
माशा जज़ाक. जज़ाकल्लाह. माशाअल्लाह, वेरी गुड. जज़ाकल्लाह. 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 जज़ाकल्लाह। जज़ाकल्लाह। सो हाँ हाँ राइट। Oh, inshallah, may Allah bless you in your trip Umrah. Yeah, may Allah accept. जज़ाकल्लाह। शाहिद भाई आप उसका तर्जुमा भी कर देना, आपकी आयत रह गई थी। जज़ाकल्लाह। मिसबा भाई फर्स्ट आयत। ذل ذل ذال माशाअल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। इसका क्या नाम, बच्चे का क्या नाम? हम्माद। हम्माद माशाअल्लाह। हम्माद गो अहेड। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। बच्चे का क्या नाम? वेरी गुड माशाल्लाह। जाफिर। हाँ माशाल्लाह। जाबिर 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 जज़ाकल्लाह खैर वेरी गुड। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। जज़ाकल्लाह खैर। हाँ ठीक है जज़ाकल्लाह खैर माशाअल्लाह। मैं दूसरी आयत में आखिर
इन्ना रब्बका लबिल मिरसाद।
इन्ना नहीं करें, इन्ना